Morning number 836. Days in a row on Morsels of a Thought of Wisdom. Hopefully, that we all learn the right things to do because knowing the right things to do is having a form of wisdom. And then actually doing it is magic. It is called virtue. We're going to bring more virtue into the world with people like the wisdom from Larry J. Namer. Recipes for Success. Never follow the crowd. The book is named Off Script. Can you see that? Off Script. So here we are. We're going to read his book. Recipes for Success means he actually has recipes. He actually has recipes. We're going to read about sweet and sour chicken. Today we will read about sweet and sour chicken. Now, this man's recipes appear as very, very good recipes. I think they are probably world class because when I look at the ingredients, I say, yeah, that's how my dad would have done it because my dad used to be a cook in New York City. Uh, he was in the restaurant business for 10 years in New York City. And then he came to the West Coast and became a retail dealer. Okay. Sweet and sour chicken. Larry Namer. Sweet and sour chicken. 1 pound of boneless, skinless chicken thighs cut into 1 inch cubes. Kosher salt, 2 pinches. White pepper, a pinch. 3 tablespoons of light soy sauce. 3 tablespoons of all purpose flour. 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Excuse me. 1 cup of chicken stock. 2 tablespoons of ketchup, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, 2 cups of avocado oil, 1 medium onion sliced, 1 8-ounce can of pineapple chunks, 1 egg, 1 red pepper cut into 1 inch slices, and 1 green pepper cut into 1 inch slices. To prepare the chicken, first marinate it for at least 1 hour by placing the pieces into a 1 gallon freezer bag with the soy sauce, 1 pinch of salt, white pepper, flour, and egg. Mix well to be sure all the chicken gets marinated. In a bowl, prepare the sauce. It is important to have this ready in advance as the dish comes together quickly. Mix the chicken stock, ketchup, brown sugar, white vinegar, and cornstarch. Blend together until smooth. Now, there's a technique about putting things into the bag. When you put it into the bag and you have mixed it up, you put the chicken in there, and you take a bowl of water without touching the water. You're about to close the bag, but you place the bag gently toward the uh, above the chicken, and the water will squeeze the air out of the bag while you are about to close it. So then close the bag when you get to the part where the water is about to seep in. Don't let water seep in. Just make sure you close the bag. That way, the liquid is all on the chicken, the surface of the chicken. Okay, now in a bowl, prepare the sauce. It is important to have this ready in advance as the dish comes together quickly. Mix the chicken stock, ketchup, brown sugar, white vinegar, and cornstarch. Blend together until smooth. Mix the chicken coating, the flour, cornstarch, salt, and baking powder together in a separate bowl. Dredge the chicken pieces, being careful to make sure each piece is coated. You can do that by you can do that put you can do that put pressing the dry coating onto the chicken with your hands. Spoonerisms. In a pot, fry the chicken in the oil. The oil should be between 325 and 350 degrees before you add chicken pieces. So make sure the oil is hot before you add the chicken pieces. Otherwise, the chicken will absorb the oil. When brown, remove them and put on a paper towel. When all the chicken is done, you will fry the pieces one more time until they are golden brown. Double cooking the chicken ensures they are crispy. Remove from the oil and set aside. That is called 回锅鸡. It means it's returned to the pan. That's a technique, double frying. You don't just fry it longer, you fry it twice. In a wok, or so frying it two short stints instead of one long stint is far superior because it has time to cool off, let the meat do what it does when it cools a little bit, and then you fry it again. In a wok or deep frying pan, saute the pepper and onions in a few tablespoons of the oil you just fried the chicken in. When cooked to being medium soft, add the chicken and saute for another minute. Then pour in the sauce and cook until sauce thickens about 2 minutes. Serve this dish with a side of steamed rice. Sweet and sour chicken. This is a dish that the Chinese will cook for Americans because Americans love it. Now, Chinese style spare ribs. We'll read that in a little bit. We'll read that in a little bit. Okay, we'll come back to that. And we will come over here to page 40. All right. Being from Coney Island, I was tough and didn't give up easily. But even I didn't think it would take as long as it did to find someone to fund us. How long did it take? 3 years, 3.5 years to be exact, and even then it was a tough sell. We heard all the excuses. It's a nice idea, but if it's so good, how come somebody hasn't already done it? If it's such a good idea, Robert Murdoch would already be doing it. Then there was the regular people don't start TV networks. Only big media companies do that. You're not Warner Brothers, Time Incorporated, or Fox. You can't compete with those folks. Then we finally met a guy in New York who said he wanted to give us money. Jeff Pollack was heading the investment banking arm of Mayvon Nugent, a traditional Wall Street bond house. This was the break we needed. You know, the range for starting a network is 60 to 100 million. I said, could you make it closer to 100 so we can do all the things we have planned? He knocked us down with his reply. Oh no, I'm only allowed to sign for 2.5. Remember that? With the low end being 60 million, we asked him what the hell we were going to do with 2.5. They didn't budge and said that was all they could do, but they could help raise some more. With that, Ellen and I looked at each other. Knowing we didn't have any other offers on the table, we decided to take the 2.5 and figure out the rest. At the time, I had a friend named Brian Owens who was teaching radio, television, and film at the University of Texas in Austin. We went back to the days when I worked at Valley Cable. I gave him a call and told him about our idea. When he said he loved the idea, I mentioned that he probably had students who would likely relish Hollywood internships. That call landed us 31 kids from UT Texas in Austin who spent the summer getting us off the ground. Once we launched in record time of 3 months from funding, many of these interns loved being with us so much they stayed in LA. Most people don't realize, thinking of E today, E exclamation point, that it started with 11 employees and 31 interns. We brought on some really great people from the local cable scene who were experts in how to stretch a dollar. Brian Owens came back from Texas. Rick Porton from Viacom, San Francisco, came to be head of production. And Phil Krepsky, Krepsky, Quepschke, and Mark Hale came from Falcon Cable. With a staff in place, we turned our attention to getting the equipment we needed. With such a low budget to work with, we couldn't buy broadcast level equipment, so we went to auctions and found equipment corporations had used for training films. We found equipment corporations had used for training films, and it was a step above garage sale fines, but keep in mind that we were more than 95 million short of what a major production company would spend. That meant we also didn't have money for fancy graphics, but we managed to find a graphic system that was used by the Air Force to train pilots and figured out how to use it for our purpose. Somehow we managed to make it work. It wasn't easy or fancy, but a lack of funding took that out of control. The only thing we did have control over was selecting our hosts, so we opted to put the majority of the money we did in excuse me. So we opted to put the majority of the money we did have into that search. After all, the hosts would be the face of our channel and the representatives of our brand. When all was said and done, there were those who said we were lucky in finding our hosts, but I beg to differ. There was no luck involved at all. Our search was very deliberate. It took thousands of taped interviews to find our first 5 hosts. It was hardly a small task, but but it was well worth it with the hosts who ultimately joined us. The Academy Award winning Greg Kinnear, Julie Moran, uh, who on to be the first woman to do what worldwide wide world of sports, Katie Wagner, who later hosted Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Mark DiCarlo, who you might know from Studs, Chris Chisholm, and Suzanne Kay. They are all talented and they all went on to make big names for themselves. In the end, we were an instant 3.5 year success. I give those kids a lot of the credit. They started as interns, and by the end of the summer, half of them were our vice presidents. That's how quickly we took off and grew. When we went on the air at the end of July in that same year, all of those people who shot us down when we asked for money changed their tune, saying, "That's what you wanted to do? We would have given you the money 3 years ago if we knew that was what you were doing." We grew so quickly that in the first year we were in 14 different countries, proving what we'd known all along, that it wasn't just people in America who loved Hollywood. People around the world loved celebrities, movies, and the gossip that came with them. Our concept had the international appeal that enabled us to do what everyone else said was impossible. A couple of regular guys from New York proved that they could, in fact, create a media company that not only could compete with Murdoch and Time, but could outcompete them. But the fun was just getting started. And Alan and I had big ideas and plans for E. We're already this far in? Wow. We wanted to change the entertainment industry. And in doing so, we ended up changing people's lives the Hollywood way by making them stars. Movie Time, later E, made the wise decision to headquarter in Hollywood. While Hollywood was seen internationally as the center of the film and entertainment industry, oddly, there was not a single TV network based there. We were now Hollywood's own channel and were quickly embraced by studios, celebrities, and local politicians. So we are reading from Larry J. Namer. Off script, never follow the crowd. Recipes for success. We're reading about virtue. We're reading about wisdom. We are reading so that we can create more virtue in the world, like these people have done. Okay, E, and the channel that never was. Hollywood is funny stuff. This is chapter 7. And I'm not talking about comedy. Hollywood is strange. Alan and I knew better than to make believe it was rocket science, so we approached it very whimsically. For that reason, we envisioned that our channel would celebrate the industry rather than focusing on what everyone else wanted to do, which was to blast evil gossip and destroy marriages and lives. We wanted to celebrate the uniqueness that is Hollywood and the people in it, the actors, actresses, and filmmakers. Ironically, we were able to authentically do so because we were a low-budget channel, not despite of that fact. The truth of the matter was that not only did we buy used equipment, but that equipment also wasn't up to Hollywood's high standards. It was just a step above using home video equipment, meaning that the end result looked very pirate. People who watched actually commented that they felt like they were getting a personal glimpse into something they were not supposed to see. It was a far cry from what they were used to watching, and to our surprise, it was our ticket to integrate our whimsical approach, making it not only acceptable but preferable to create content without expensive equipment or fancy effects. The biggest compliment was, I feel like I'm a fly on the wall. Bingo! That was exactly how we wanted our viewers to feel, as if they were eavesdropping on their favorite celebrities' personal lives and had an inside world into the lifestyles of the rich and very famous. The equipment just so happened to give it the authenticity to accomplish that task. It worked for us, so we had fun with it. It worked for us, so we had fun with it. In the beginning, we didn't get any recognition. When we applied for press passes to get into the Academy Awards, we were rejected, saying something along the lines of, "You're just a rinky-dink little cable channel. The cable channel wouldn't even get us in." So we did what any reputable entertainment channel would do. We snuck into the Academy Awards that year. That's right, we literally jumped the fence. Once inside, we wandered around, but unlike the other reporters and TV hosts, we didn't bother asking the stars about their next projects. There was no Tom Cruise, what can we look forward to next? Instead, we took a different approach. Hey, those clothes are really cool. Where did you get them? Where did you get them? It was fun. It was positive. It was different. And to our surprise, it was so we received that it led to red carpets. It was so well received that it led to red carpets and filming the Hollywood jet set in their designer label outfits. The television audience loved it. And as a result, we started growing and getting more money. It wasn't long before the same cable companies that told us to go to hell when we asked for a press pass had to admit that what we were doing helps them promote their stars and movies. Suddenly, not only were they interested in giving us money, but they really wanted us to take it. More on our search for partners and funding in the next chapter. The rest is history. Let me drop the few names here. There's a good chance you've heard of some of the people who became famous or more famous because of E. Greg Kinnear and Ryan Seacrest are 2. The list goes on to include Chelsea Handler, Kendra Wilkinson, Juliana Rankick, Brooke Burke, Jules Asner, Cindy Taylor, John Henson, Joel McHale, and Hal Sparks, to name but a few. And I don't think it would be possible to talk about E without mentioning the Kardashians, Kim, Chloe, and Courtney, Chloe with a K, and their mom, Kris with a K, Jenner, and her husband, Bruce Jenner, who was one of the greatest Olympic athletes in the 1980s. I remember him. Bruce and Kris were doing infomercials before joining E in 2007 when their show Keeping Up with the Kardashians launched and became a hit, proving that people wanted to know more about how celebrities lived their lives. They wanted to be a fly on the wall and see their homes and listen to their conversations. It was right about that time that Alan and I were toying around the idea of starting another company, but this time it would be focused on fitness and exercise. We'd call it FXTV, Fitness and Exercise Television. It was simple, memorable, and we thought it was brilliant. We had the logo and wrote the business plan, and to back it up, we formed a group of advisors that included renowned athletes like Kareem Abdul Jabbar, O.J. Simpson, and of course the Jenners. Believing we'd made a great channel, we started our money pitches to fund FXTV. One of the places we pitched it to was the Fox channel. At the time, Strauss Zelnick was the head of Fox, and when we talked to them, they liked the idea but said they had plans to do something different. He was cordial about it, even thanking us for approaching them in a nice little letter he wrote to us, saying it was great to see us and that we had a good idea with our FX TV channel, but we're going in a different direction. They even invited us to call on them again if we came up with anything new. It was all good until we were reading one of the Hollywood industry trade publications and found out differently. Fox was announcing their new channel, FX TV. Nothing to do with fitness and exercise, but they liked the name. To say we were stunned would be an understatement. How could that be? After all, we owned the name and even registered it. It was legally ours, and we pitched it to enough people that it wasn't a secret. By this time, Zelnick was out, but we knew the folks at Fox. We were all friends and had promoted their shows and celebrities on E, so we gave them a friendly phone call to find out what was going on. I'm not sure what happened, but their legal department, well, let's just say they weren't all that friendly. They came into the conversation with barrels loaded, saying that we should never have been granted the name FX because all you had to do was put an O between the F and X and it would spell Fox. Like I said, we were among friends, but they were being such difficult idiots that they forced our hand. Little did they know at the time that we were already convinced and the channel didn't make sense. We were already convinced that the channel didn't make sense. After all, we were still in the days of linear television. Logistically, it didn't work. If someone was just beginning yoga, they would want programming at that level, and as they practiced yoga, they'd advance, wanting programming at a higher level. So when Fox pulled the name grabbing stunt, we were already debating whether or not the FX channel was as good an idea as we originally thought. To top it off, we weren't really wed to the name. It was an idea, and we did the right thing by registering it so we had the legal right to use it should we want to. Our kid gloves came off when they told us that they were going to make sure we could never use the name that was legally ours. Ha ha. So we'll go into the rest of this next week. We'll find out what happened. And okay, old Kinderhook.